Okay, so with the second line, the best discipline is taming your mind stream. So we've gotten to the part now about taming the self-centered attitude. So last time I asked you to think of the defects. Did you do that? What did you come up with? Misery making. In what way? Okay, so the self-centered attitude makes our mind very, very narrow, because we're only focused on ourself and getting our way or getting rid of what we don't like. So the mind doesn't take into consideration the big picture, gets very, very narrow. Then you do things and say things out of that. Then afterwards, when you realize how narrow-minded you were and how limited and unkind, the self-centered attitude made us being. Then the self-centered attitude chips in again and criticizes us for being such a jerk. Yeah, so it's like wherever you turn, the self-centered attitude has something that it pulls out of its pocket to make us miserable. Yeah, and it's true, isn't it? Yeah. I was reading some transcripts today of a teaching by one Geshe that I met when I was in Dharamsala one year, and he was, what was it? Now it went out of my mind. What was he doing? Oh yes, that how narrow our mind goes, and how that makes everything that happens to me blown up out of proportion. But he was saying, because he was very, very sick one year, like super sick. He was very sick when I met him, but apparently this was when he was more sick. And more sick, when he was sicker. And he said when he was just lying there, because he couldn't do very much, what he thought about was, like, what is the big picture? And he was thinking, that there's more going on. There's what's in front of him, what's in back of him, what's on both sides. And so he was saying, what's in front of him is future lives. What's in back is previous lives. What's on both sides are other sentient beings' experiences. And so he said when he started thinking about all of that when he was lying there so sick, then his mind really relaxed, because he saw that whatever suffering he was having was actually quite small compared to the big picture of all sentient beings and even the big picture of his own past and future lives. And similarly, to get so excited over, a present happiness is also kind of out of proportion, because again, compared to past and future lives and all sentient beings, it's just some small thing. So why get too excited? Why get too down? Neither of them make very much sense, okay? So this big picture is a real thing that counteracts the complete blinders that the self-centered attitude puts on us. Just as you described. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you were saying that it has both a narrowing. It narrows you when you don't want to be narrow, and it expands you when you don't want to be expanded, because when you're trying to focus on doing something, self-centered thought comes in the form of distraction that takes you out and away. And when you're trying to expand your perspective, let's say by meditating on the four immeasurables, self-centered thought says, but what about me? Yeah. And make, zoom right back to ourselves. So again, it's so sneaky. It's so incredibly sneaky. Yeah. And it comes up with these wonderful reasons that make total sense in the moment. Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just the narrowing effect of it, especially in, the feeling of loneliness, feeling of disconnect, feeling of isolation or alienation often is because we're just focusing on me. And, the world doesn't understand me, or I don't fit in with what the world wants, or nobody likes me, or, whatever way we, flavor of the day, flavor of the moment we have for interpreting why somehow we don't fit in or belong where we are, and how that's just focused around me. And that even when we try to expand from that, and then we consider our friends and our family and have, maybe some affection or whatever relationships with them, it's still formulated around the idea of me, because these are the people who like me, who are close to me, et cetera, et cetera. And so as long as, there's always me in the center of it, then, if there's going to be problems, So the real solution is to be able to, you can see now why having love and compassion has to be based on equanimity, because we have to get beyond the self-centered mind, categorizing people into friends, enemies, and strangers, so that we can really care about people equally, simply because they're living beings who want happiness and don't want suffering, just like we do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the self-centeredness can also make us feel ill, in the sense, and this is quite true, when we sit there and ruminate about me, what's happening to me, what do they think about me, what's going on in my life, are things going to turn out the way I want them to? They're not going the way I want them to, things never go the way I want them to do, woe is me, why is life is this, I'm always so unhappy, this is totally unfair, well, maybe I should do this, maybe I should. That, when our mind starts spinning like that, we mentally become exhausted, and physically, there's going to be repercussions from the mental exhaustion. And we can see that, like when our mind becomes stressed, so often it's because the self-centered attitude is worrying about something involving me, and we all know that when we get stressed, we become unhappy, and it affects us physically, doesn't it? We often don't feel well, we're exhausted. So you find the hard part, because the self-centeredness focuses on another situation that's the cause of your suffering, and then to realize that what you actually need to do now is maybe have a kind attitude towards yourself. The self-centered attitude, is the one that focuses on the external cause of suffering, but it's also the thing that prevents you from saying, okay, I have to, calm myself and be a little bit kind to myself and not be so, point the finger at myself, how rotten I am. Right. So that thought, the anxiety that is, well, what about me? What's going to happen to me? And how then that comes out as anger. Sometimes it's restlessness, like you said. Sometimes it's anger that then gets dumped on whoever the fortunate being is around us, who gets to purify their negative karma by being the recipient of our junk. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? So the self-centered attitude comes in terms of, we want to organize our life so that we get the most pleasure and least inconvenience out of every experience. Okay, so I've been deeply involved in this and formulating the schedule for the upcoming trip to Europe, where I want to make sure I have enough rest, and then that there's enough time so I can go see this friend and that friend, but if I have to take this ferry, it's way too long, and that'll make me exhausted, and, on and on and on and on. Yeah. So how to get the most pleasure, you're going on a train ride, on a plane ride. Oh, those lovely international plane rides where you have to sit in fetal position. And I'm a small person. I mean, I think of these guys who are 6 foot something and, you know, I mean, I can barely fit in the seats. How do they do it? And, you know, and then of course it just brings out your, you know, thing of, you know, this is my 1/4 of an inch on the armrest. You know, get your arm off my 1/4 inch. My elbow wants to go there. Yeah. So it really brings, yeah. Okay. So I think good discussion. Good we keep thinking about this, okay? So next time I'll ask you for some more ways. Hmm?